2025 was the year of the rye, and today we've got a blind tasting of 4 very high proof rye whiskeys. 3 actually are barrel proof. We're going to see which one reigns supreme and which one you should be putting on your shelf right now. Let's go! How are y'all doing today? My name's Chris. Welcome back to Bourbinsane. 2025 was a great year for rye whiskey releases. Honestly, a couple new ones came out, brand extensions that I loved, and of course the mainstays for the brands that have already had their rye whiskey expressions. So I thought it'd be a really fun video, and fun for me too, to just do a blind tasting of all these high proof rye whiskeys. We got 3 barrel proofs. Pikesville, not quite barrel proof, but you know what? High enough proof, and one of my go-tos all the time from Heaven Hill. So I figured let's include it. Let's see what truly comes out on top. Some of these are new releases, the Elijah Craig, the Sazerac Rye Full Proof. But they're supposed to be mainstays on the shelf. So we're going to see if they're available in most markets. These 2 you can pick up anytime, your Jack Daniels and your Pikesville. Go get them right now if you want. But I'm really curious for myself, given that I've been kind of trending towards rye and liking rye whiskey more the last really few years. I thought it'd be fun to do this blind, find out what is truly the best rye for my palate. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun. If you haven't yet, please do make sure you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let me know what other blind tastings you want to see. Hope you guys enjoy it. Let's go. Alrighty, I got my 4 samples pre-poured here. They've already been shuffled, but I'll do it again just for you guys. Got my water ready to go too. Got to make sure we're taking sips between, especially with barrel proof stuff. So let's get right into it, guys. Alright, probably good enough. Like I said, they were already blinded to me and shuffled, so I got my results in my pocket. We're good to go. Now these aren't going to be as much about looking at color and that kind of stuff, because color is going to be giving away more of our proof anyway, which there is some discrepancy in proof on at least one of these. So not as big of a deal, but let's get started on my right here. And we're going to look at the viscosity on this first. So of course most of these are going to be pretty dark, you know. So this has got really nice legs on this here. I mean, sticking to the glass really well. Very inviting, very nice dark color. Man, I'll tell you what, rye whiskey, it's just been growing on me so much lately, guys. All right, let's go into the nose. Whew. Okay, that's immediate punch. Whew, immediate punch. Doesn't smell super old, but it's heavy, heavy baking spices. Actually a very, very sweet whiskey, it seems like, on the nose. So a sweet rye. It's definitely got your rye notes you commonly describe in rye. You know, that pepperiness, definitely there. I mean, just because of the proof that's coming through, the proof punch. Nice citrus on this too, actually. It's got a lot of that, like lemon peel and orange peel citrus. Peel specifically, not as much the juice or the fruit itself, but the peel of that, where it's got that little bit of bitterness and that rininess. Nice nose. And it's got that grassiness too, which usually kind of tells me it's a rye whiskey. Not a huge amount of alcohol burn as far as youthfulness though, like graininess. So that's good to see. Let's go into the palate here. Woo! Okay. Yeah. Baby, that's hot. I'm going to try the first time through these to just do 1 sip each, and same with the nose, but that was my first sip of the day, so I'm going to do 2 sips on this one at least, because I want to be able to give some kind of notes here, so. Much better acclimation after that second sip. Wow, great mouthfeel, great finish on that. It's got bite in the mid-palate, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of sweetness in this. I don't know what mash bill this would be, but it seems like a barely legal rye, or very, I guess, more of those corn notes, that corn sweetness that's coming through also on it. So really, really nice. It's almost got like a bubblegummy taste on it. Almost like a juicy fruit gum. Think of like a juicy fruit gum. Just got that mid palate. And I'll sometimes get that on Ryes, but that was very, very strong on that one. So, and I like that. You know, the problem with juicy fruit gum is flavor's gone in about 2 seconds. So, all right, let's go to our second sample here. Viscosity. Still more good viscosity sticking to the glass. Maybe not as much. And my light color looks a little lighter too. Again, not supposed to look at color, but let's go into nose. Palate, or nose seems a little more muted than sample 1. Again, definitely a lot of sweetness though coming through on this. It definitely seems like a very sweet whiskey. Much more of a nose punch though, as far as those notes come through. Yeah, it's much more immense and deep in the first sample here. This is an extremely sweet and like fresh fruit forward whiskey on this one. Like a very fruity rye. It's all, and it just, I've recently had this whiskey, I think I know what it is already, is because of that nose. It's all orchard fruit, like apricots, peaches and pears, fresh apple, caramel apple. It's very sweet. Sweeter than number 1, but it just seems a little more muted on the nose too. So let's go into the palate on this. That is so apple forward. One of the most apple forward ryes I've probably ever had in my life. It's all golden apple, caramel apple, like the yellow caramel apple suckers. All that. A little bit of a drying sensation in the mid palate, which sometimes tells you it's rye. You know what I mean? It tells you it's rye a lot of times. A good aged rye typically turns into like a creaminess on that palate. So that tells me it's probably not a super high aged rye. But I'll tell you what, good flavor profile, decent mouthfeel, but so far number 1's still in the lead. All right, let's move on to sample number 3 here. Once again, nose seems a little bit muted compared to sample 1. Similar to sample 2, but nose is completely different for sure. This has got a little bit more of a spiciness actually on the nose. And I'm actually getting like cherry notes coming through. I wouldn't even necessarily know this is rye on initial nose. Again, like I said, it seems a little bit muted though. Sample 1 for sure has given me that most of the nose punch so far. And palate punch compared to the first 2, so. It's got that almost, you know, the same notes I've been kind of describing before, where it's got that lemon peel, orange peel. It's in there. It just seems muted a little bit. So let's go to the palate here. Okay. Mouthfeel is really good on that. Almost no rye spice at all on the palate. Proof's not too high either, actually, so it doesn't seem like it at least. But it's a very, very creamy rye. The giveaway on this is I know it's a rye whiskey, so I kind of know what to look for in rye specifically versus bourbons. This is a full blind of bourbons and ryes. I may not even know this is a rye whiskey necessarily, but it's giving you, again, that creamy mouthfeel. Nice mouth viscosity, nice mouth coating. Again, tells me there's probably a little age on this rye. Whatever it may be, you know, there's probably some age in this rye. Very, very good, though. Classic, like I said, sweeter than a normal rye. But if I want a rye whiskey and I want something with a little proof, this is actually going to give you a little bit of experience versus just your standard rye whiskey offering. All right, let's go to number 4. This has almost like a graininess on it. Which typically, I mean, sometimes in rye whiskeys you'll get that graininess anyway. Sometimes it's just youthfulness. It's still got that spice. I think I know what distillery this is from. I won't say it, but it's got a very, they often give me a very spicy rye, typically, you know, for most of them. Proof is definitely not hitting me in the face with this, though. Quite a muted proof. Seems to be like a barely legal rye, you know. So a lot of sweetness still on this one. Really, all these have been pretty sweet for a rye whiskey. So let's go to palate. Yeah, that's actually not bad. It's got kind of a funky, astringent aftertaste. Not as much of that creamy mouthfeel, and not much of a mouthfeel at all, really. Not much viscosity. With age on a rye whiskey, you can kind of tell mid palate. It gives you almost a creamier oak, and then it washes over the back of the palate and still gives you that barrel there, but it doesn't turn drying. With more youthful ryes, which I assume this probably is a little more youthful than some of the other ones, it turns into almost a drying oak. Not as much of the sweetness, not much of the creaminess, and probably not as high proof too. That's why I'm not getting such a good mouthfeel. So let me take about 5-10 minutes here, guys. I'll take a little break. We'll go back through the other order and see how they turn out. All right.
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, took about 15 minutes there. We're gonna go back through. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel. Let me know which one of these you think is gonna turn out on top on this video. Let's go back into number 4. little more time to open up. It's got a better nose than it did the first time through. Still immense sweetness on this, you know. No alcohol burn this time. I don't remember what I said about each one of these now at this point, so. But it's got more of a rye bite. It seems more like a little spicier rye, you know, on the nose. More pepperiness. That grassiness. Still not a huge amount of sweetness. It definitely is more of a spiciness. So, going to palate. Better. It's definitely better than the first time through, honestly. One of these I mentioned, that juicy fruit gum. I'm getting kind of that again on this. It's a fruitiness. Nice fruitiness, those lighter citrus fruits. Typically rye whiskey, again, as mentioned, I get those peels of fruits, lemon peel, that kind of stuff. This is more light. So I think this is probably, again, just a barely legal rye. Decent, still short on the mouthfeel and finish, but that drying oak I described the first time, it's not really there now. Let's go back to number 3 here. Wow. Second time through, or maybe it's just the order of doing these coming off this one. Extreme amount of oak coming through on this now on the nose. It smells like a very old rick house is what it smells like now. It's amazing going through just the order of these samples. It could have just been completely random, you know. This could be a young one and this could be an old one. I could be completely wrong on all of them, but I get that rick house kind of musty oak smell that comes through on this now. I can't remember if I described the spice on this one or not, but there's not much spice. Very mellowed. Almost no proof hit me in the nose either. So let's go into palate. It is way more oak this time through. Crazy. Huge amount of oak coming through. Huge amount of sweetness. It doesn't taste very proofy, honestly. I know 3 of these are barrel proof. I know that. So, but the mouthfeel and viscosity and finish, it's still very nice. Even though this doesn't seem that high proof, doesn't seem that high rye because of the lack of spice I'm getting. Like I said, the experience that this is kind of taking you on is very nice. It gives you those, just that mouthfeel and that creaminess you want. Probably, again, maybe an aged rye of some type. More aged than, say, sample 4. But we're going to find out. It's going to be hard to decide what my favorite is here, I think. Let's go back to number 3. Man, I described like sample 3 and sample 1 as very sweet. This has just got sweetness that's like amplified to another level. May not even know this is a rye whiskey, honestly. If I didn't know this was a rye blind. It's crazy. Fruity, man. Light citrus fruit. But nice. Sometimes that light citrus can kind of trick you into thinking it's young, like youthful. That's more of a bourbon thing for me, though. If I get those super bright fruits versus dark, rich, you know, like stone fruits, I usually attribute that to being a little bit more youthful. This has just got a really nice nose, and it's immensely sweet, for sure. So, let's go into palate. I think I said this the first time through, but I don't know if I've had a whiskey that tastes more like biting into an apple in my life. It's like a crisp apple on a fall day when you go to an apple orchard. It is so weird. I've described some other Buffalo Trace stuff. I have a guess what this is already, but I've described other Buffalo Trace stuff, specifically the H. Taylors that give me that fruitiness. Those are typically actually a little bit deeper and more rich, if you will. This seems like a little more surface level, but it's really giving me that apple, like, super strong. Super strong. And actually, that sip, too, I got a little bit of that drying oak mid-palate. It's kind of now just settling in as we're talking, so mouthfeel and finish were there, but it did become a little astringent. But I'll tell you, that fruitiness is something crazy. If you like that kind of fruits, you like those brighter fruit notes, you're going to want that one all day. All right, let's move back to sample number 1 here. Woo, okay. It's still a proofy boy, but let me tell you what, this smells like charred oak right now. I don't know why. It's like charred oak. It smells like a barrel stave. Like a barrel stave you just lit on fire. Very weird. Nose is completely amplified from the other 3, though. It's just a absolute punch. It could be the proof, I guess. but I'm not getting that alcohol burn at all. It's very baking spice forward, very toasted oak forward, it seems like. Again, another one, I might think this is like a double oaked bourbon expression of some type. I wouldn't even think of this as being a rye, or maybe a toasted rye possibly. Nice nose though. Let's go into palate here. It's a completely different flavor profile than the other three. Like, completely different. It's hard to put into words exactly what it is, but the proof is just, it seems like it's very amplified. I mean, it hits you in the face immediately, which, honestly, when I drink a rye whiskey, specifically a barrel proof rye, I want a proof punch because I know what I'm in for. Like, I want a rye that I can taste it's a rye. But again, this doesn't dry out my palate at all. It actually makes me salivate a little more. Makes me want to take another sip, which is rare for barrel proof ryes, or all these are pretty affordable, affordable barrel proof ryes. So, man, I'm gonna have to take a couple minutes, guys. I'll be going through these, smelling them side by side, and I'll come back and get an order for you, and we'll be right back, all right?
A little longer than a few minutes later.
All right, we're back, everyone. Took a few minutes there. I went back and forth a little bit, but honestly, it was pretty clear cut for me on these, at least for who the winner was. So, before we go any further, we get into the results, do me a favor. Make sure you like this video, and I want to hear from you. Which one of these is your favorite of these ryes if you've had them all? All right? Let's start with number 4, and we'll go into the results here. Let me grab them out of my pocket, put them on the table. Number 4 first. We have got letter C. Letter C. Nah. That is Pikesville. Okay. Makes sense. Let me grab the bottle. All right, Pikesville. So this is a 6-year age-stated rye out of Heaven Hill. So minimum 6 years, that means. Probably the reason, honestly, could be the youngest of this whole lineup, honestly. Hard to say, but probably the reason I didn't get quite as much of that, I guess, sweet, creamy oak, Always liked this, though. Substantial step up from Rittenville, which is the same family. And actually, we have another one in this lineup that's also from Heaven Hill also. So, very, very good. It's usually my go-to cocktail rye if I want some a little bit higher proof than my Rittenhouse. That or old Granddad 114, but that's a bourbon, not a rye. So if we're talking rye whiskey, it's okay, still $40, and I'm okay drinking this neat or on the rocks or in a cocktail, So it's hard to go wrong with that at all. Not too bad. Moving on to my third favorite choice in this lineup specifically is letter D. Letter D, we've got, wow, okay, Sazerac Full Proof. All right. I wasn't sure how this would fare blind, honestly. This was probably number 3 on my whiskeys of the year in 2025, and that's about right. You know what I mean? It's about right. Very, very good stuff. I really like this, and at the price, it's only $39.99. No age statement, rye whiskey from Buffalo Trace. Still haven't had the 100 proof yet. It's probably just going to be a tweener, obviously, between the Saz and Saz Full Proof. But this is such bright fruit, man. If you like those bright fruits, you like that Buffalo Trace profile, it's like impossible to go wrong with this one. So, a very good release, and I sure hope it's available in almost every market we can find it, All right, coming in at number 2 today is letter B. Yep, Elijah Craig Barrel Proof Rye. This actually won my whiskey of the year, but blind, guess what? It came out second. That happens sometimes. I really enjoy this rye whiskey. 108 proof, but it's 13 years plus. And I don't remember the order or what I was describing on notes for each of these now at this point, but I'm sure this was the one I was describing as having that kind of rickhousey smell and funk. You know what I mean? That musty oak. Because this is 13 years. Yes, the proof was lower, but I'll tell you what, this still gives you a very good mouthfeel and finish for that proof. The lowest proof of our entire lineup. It was even lower than our Pikesville. Difference being, though, this is unfiltered too, so that could have made a difference on that too, and then of course the age. So, if you guys can pick up this rye, I absolutely recommend you do that. I got it for about $70. All day at that price. All day. There were only a few bottles there. I only got one, and I have not seen it since, so that could be a challenge, but worth a grab if you can find it for sure. That means number 1, and definitely the darkest when I'm looking at these next to each other now, is letter A. It's our Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Rye. Wow. I always say I love this bottle. It's one of my favorites. And you never know 100% until you have it, but it is. This is not even that old, probably. Like, probably 6 years, maybe. I don't think there's an age statement on it. My bottle here is just under 130 proof, or just over 130 proof. So, But it was just a huge difference in the nose, the palate, as far as the mouthfeel finish it gave you, and the amplified nose compared to the other three. Like, there was no question. It was just amplified. It really was. I love it. I really love this bottle, clearly. I always say it, but until we do it blind, we don't know 100%. But I'll tell you what, hard to go wrong with any of these four. But for me, Jack Daniel's Barrel Proof Rye, taking the cake. All right, well, once again, thank you guys so much for watching this blind tasting today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Love doing them. Love doing them. So I'd love to do some more. Let me know what you want to see next. You know, there's so many whiskeys out there and so many that I want to get also. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear it. Maybe we'll do a barrel proof blind next. You know, barrel proof bourbon blind next. So, man, that was a mouthful. But appreciate y'all being here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. Stay insane, guys.